Hello everyone. So today we would be talking about a very important topic for your mains examination related to paper 2 of your optional history. This would deal with your section A, that is modern India. So the topic is post independence, reorganization and consolidation. Post-independence reorganization and consolidation. I am Pankaj Singh from Sri Ram's IAS, which has partnered with Unacademy for civil services examination courses. I hold the 10 years plus experience in both offline and online mode, MA in history and also LLB and LLM. So this is our link through which you can access all our courses related to civil services examination. Now this is something that should motivate you very strongly. We have Garima Loya from our classroom program securing second rank, Kanishka Goyal securing 9th rank, and Avinav Sivat securing 12th rank. And there are many more candidates who have made it to the successful list this year, and I hope and look forward for your pictures also to be figuring here by the next year. Alright, so wish you all the very best. And now let us come to this topic, what is called as linguistic reorganization of India. So before I move on with this topic, there are certain backgrounders information which you are supposed to know. For example, we see that Indian national movement, in real sense of the term, begins with foundation of Congress 1885, and that for 20 years it were the moderates who had dominated the scene, and then they were the extremists. However, when we read different books, what we very commonly get to see is that Indian national movement went on to become mass movement only with the arrival of Mahatma Gandhi on the scene. Are we getting the point? So in case we accept and we say that Indian national movement had become a mass movement, we also have to accept this fact that until the arrival of Gandhiji into mainstream Indian national movement, the movement was not mass based. Are we getting the point? Masses were not associated with the Indian national movement. So this is exhibited in the way the moderates worked. So you see, when moderates were at the helm of affairs in Indian national movement, it was a top-down kind of approach. Even for that matter, moderates never had taken up the freedom struggle as a full-time affair. Politics for them was a part-time affair. And from amongst them, a new class of people emerged. Again, this was still, top down kind of approach. So those were called the extremists. Their methodology was different. It was only with the arrival of Gandhiji that for 2 years, almost 2 to 3 years, he was engaged in limited movements and he wanted to know India. You remember Champaran, Ahmedabad and Kheda. So with this arrives the decade of 1920s, particularly in 1920, if you see, we had Khilafat movement going on, right? And that Gandhiji had played a very important role in letting the masses come and join the movement. In fact, in 1920, Congress has held a session at Nagpur. So the euphoria which had been created, the energy that has come into the Indian national movement with the inputs of how to get masses come and join Indian national movement, even Indian National Congress was very, very excited with the methodology of Gandhiji, wherein he said, you see, that connect the people through their languages, through their vernaculars. And it is only with the arrival of Gandhiji that we get to hear and see the names of some people, who were leaders at the local level and who were able to mobilize the masses to come and join the movement. So much so was the excitement created by vernaculars and local languages that Indian National Congress decided that the Pradesh Congress committees, the committees of the Congress at the level of provinces or state, they would be organized on linguistic basis. So in a way, an atmosphere has been created in India that once we get to have our independence won from the British rule, India would be reorganized on the linguistic basis, and all the top leaders, the top leadership of our country who were fighting the war for independence against the British, you see, they were quite convinced with the idea that India can be organized on linguistic basis. However, you see, very soon one event develops in Indian politics, and that was demand of Pakistan by Muslim League. Now, unfortunately, Muslim League went on to create a fault line. It went on to create a fault line. Muslim League. I'm writing it out here in case that's not visible on the top left hand side corner. So Muslim League went on to create a fault line. And what was that fault line? You see, they said India consists of Hindus and India consists of Muslims. So this Muslims have a different language, different culture. For example, they speak Urdu and Hindu speaks Hindi, right? So a divide of Hindi versus Urdu got to be created by Muslim League, and somehow it worked for them. They were able to get a separate state, independent state created for themselves on the basis of language, on the basis of religion. So somehow this issue of religion created by Muslim League was also, or in a way, the turn of events took such a place that it also came to be associated with the language. Now you see, so far, Muslims and maybe some other people had been using Urdu and others have been speaking Hindi and also other vernaculars in local languages. But this difference was never felt in the society. It was never realized in the society. And that is the reason I'm using this term fault line, because this fault line that was created around this point of time will also affect India at the time of independence. Now what happens after independence? There would be a fear of Hindi being dominant over other languages. I'm not talking about the official language issue right now. Okay, so what happens? A speaker of other languages felt that maybe Hindi speaking people are going to dominate us. So because of this, more intense the demand of reorganizing India on linguistic basis, with which they thought their survival and their identity could be preserved and protected. You see, language is a very important issue. Only with the help of language you can ensure, that education percolates to the lowest level of the masses, and only with education they can come up to the higher rungs of administration. So that ways now there was more intense a demand for linguistic reorganization. Now please try to understand the opinion of the top leadership at that point of time was, number one, to work for national unity, okay, and to keep the territorial fabric of India intact. Then we also had other glaring problems like poverty, like hunger. So this top leadership, who saw no issue in linguistic reorganization of Pradesh Congress committees, and somehow a message was also sent that after we have won independence, India would be reorganized on the basis of language. These leaders wanted the issue of linguistic reorganization of India to be kept aside for the time being, so as to handle the other glaring problems of India. And also somehow or the other, this leadership had a slight fear that what if, just like in case of Pakistan, if this issue of language and linguistic reorganization is given a currency, it might further lead to balkanization of India. So all the top leadership only wanted the issue to cool down for some time, and then they could have looked the matters. But somehow the masses went on to understand it that the top leadership does not want to reorganize independent India on the linguistic basis. So what happened afterwards and how the issue came to be resolved is what we are going to see at in today's lecture. Please understand, when it comes to language, with respect to mains examination, there can be two types of questions. One is related to linguistic reorganization of India, and the other issue is related to official language of India. Now, the issue related to official language appears more of a GS kind of issue, and reorganization of India on the basis of language is more an optional kind of issue, though we will have to study the official language matter also. So please try to understand, around the time of independence there were so many princely states, and by the masterstroke policy of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, except Jammu and Kashmir, except Junagadh and Hyderabad, almost all the princely states came to be integrated in India. So almost around 565 princely states had been there. So, and also there were British provinces as well, which were a part of British India. Okay, so all of them became independent and came to be integrated into India. So India started a process of integrating itself, and now the option before India, or the option that India wanted to choose, was to let these units be politically and viably and economically, politically and economically viable units of administration. This is what the top leadership of India wanted. However, very soon political movement, political demands for creation of linguistic based provinces or linguistic based states came to develop in India. The voice started becoming very, very strong. Are we getting the point? So you see, it was the Congress party which was in power. So the Congress-led government was very, very worried, got very, very concerned about the fact that if language alone is taken as the basis of reorganizing India, then it would lead to what? A kind of threat to the national unity. You see, the fears of partition were still afresh. The unfortunate event of partition and the agony that came along with it, the bloodshed that happened along with it, was still fresh in the minds and hearts of the freedom strugglers of India, the top leadership of India, and they never wanted a sequel of it to happen in the form of language. And it was this fear that actually went on to convince the leaders that the issue of linguistic reorganization be kept aside for the time being. But somehow the masses of the country, the people of the country, thought that the government is not very, very keen to take a decision with respect to linguistic reorganization of India. Rather, they had a feeling that the government of India does not want to reorganize India on linguistic basis. And all these fears with the government was majorly because of partition of India. Are we getting the point? Moving further, you see, Nehru had played a very instrumental role in the initial 2 decades after independence, and you see, he saw the danger of linguistic chauvinism, the potential of linguistic chauvinism, just as communalism had in terms of its potential. You see, the wave of communalism which had started in India finally led to partition, and this was what was feared by Pandit Nehru, that it could lead to further breaking of India. As such, if you see, most of the world leaders were of the opinion that, you see, India is a land with so much of diversity that very soon it will be torn apart and it shall be wiped off from the world map very soon. So such fears were also glaring into the mind and hearts of the top leadership at that point of time. In fact, the fear associated with linguistically reorganizing India gets expressed, with what K.M. Munshi had to say. K.M. Munshi said that the political ambition, this is quote, the political ambition of a linguistic group can only be satisfied by what? By the exclusion and discrimination of other linguistic groups within the area. Right? So what did he say? The political ambition of a linguistic group can only be satisfied by the exclusion and discrimination of other linguistic groups within the area. Within the area. So that shows how concerned the leaders were around that point of time with respect to protecting the territorial fabric of the country, and they were not wrong in doing so. Today we boast of India as one country, but that this one country has come into existence only because of the far-sighted leadership of India at that point of time. Unfortunately for India, when all this was going on, movements started picking up. For example, movements like Akiye Kerala, Samyukta Maharashtra, and Vishal Andhra, right? So these were all the movements which wanted to reorganize their region on the basis of language. Are we getting the point? Now we also saw this party, Communist Party of India, taking lead in helping these movements, and that is how they went on to popularize the concept of linguistic reorganization of India. And also they used to talk highly about the fact that if we can go on to linguistically reorganize India, it would rather be effective in taking democracy to the grassroots level and making democracy more effective and more powerful. This was the opinion that the propagators of this philosophy were putting forward. So the Telangana struggle, the demand of the Telugu speaking people was picking up a lot of force, right? Even before independence, there had been a long demand for the Telugu speaking people, right? And somehow or the other, even central government was aware of it, and they were also recognizing that yes, the demand of Telugu speaking people who had been a part of Madras province is quite genuine. They were very well aware of it, right? So somehow after independence, creation of a Telugu speaking state of Andhra was very much a contentious issue around that point of time. However, the government, being aware of the issue, had directed the Constituent Assembly that Andhra could be mentioned as a separate unit in the new constitution, and thereby it prompted the drafting committee to constitute a separate committee to look into the issue of demands related to linguistic states. Are we getting the point? So the intentions of the government were not, the intentions of the government cannot be doubted with this regard, because in the Constituent Assembly itself, they had made such a provision. Now what happens? 1948, a commission was appointed to examine the issue and report on the issue related to creation of Andhra, Karnataka, Kerala, and Maharashtra. This is Dhar Commission 1948 that you must remember. Now what happens? This Dhar Commission, when it presented the report, it said that linguistic reorganization of India can affect national unity, and also at the same time it may lead to administrative inconvenience. So the Dhar Commission, on the basis of the fact that national unity can be affected, and that also if you reorganize India linguistically there might be administrative inconvenience, it rejected the proposal of linguistic reorganization of India. Now when they presented the report, the Dhar Commission was very much criticized by the masses. So the government was forced to appoint a committee, which is Linguistic Provinces Committee, in December 1948 itself, so as to look into the recommendations of that commission and also to study the entire question of linguistic reorganization all fresh. So you see, Congress went on to appoint in its debut session a committee called as JVP Committee. Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, and Pattabhi Sitaramaiah, they were the members of this committee. Interestingly, this committee also rejected linguistic basis, as the point to reorganize India. So linguistic reorganization of India also was rejected by JVP committee. However, JVP committee did accept that there is a strong case with respect to Andhra, but they did not accept the creation of Andhra in the immediate sense. Now, the sentiments of Telugu speaking people were running very high, and on July 16, 1952, P. Sundaraya went on to move a private member bill for the creation of linguistic state of Andhra Pradesh. Linguistic state of Andhra Pradesh. Are we getting the point? So this is what you have to keep in mind. Now, unfortunately for the government of the times, P. Sriramalu went on to a fast unto death, and unfortunately after 58 days of fasting he died. The death of Sriramalu went on to create a lot of chaos and violence in the entire region of Andhra, which forced Pandit Nehru and the government to announce the formation of Andhra Rashtra with undisputed 14 districts. So that is how, for the first time, a linguistically created state came into being in India, and that is 1st October 1953. Andhra was bifurcated from Madras province. Now, because the government had accepted this, so what happened now? The struggle for Vishal Andhra, which would contain all the Telugu speaking people, demand for United Kerala and Samyukt Maharashtra also started picking up. So it was like that linguistic groups felt that if government can accept creation of Andhra, they can also accept our demand. So this was the situation of India around that point of time. So what happens now? The creation of Andhra intensified the demand for other regions to be linguistically reorganized. So our country started witnessing demands from various corners of the country. Now, looking at this kind of chaos happening in the country, the government went on to appoint in 1953 a 3-member State Reorganization Commission with Justice Fazl Ali, being the head of the commission. The other members to this commission were K. M. Panikkar and also Hridayanath Kunzru. That is what you have to remember. In October 1955, the commission presented its report, and it said that what is more important is that you pay attention to administrative convenience and economic factors when you attempt to reorganize India into administrative units. It said, yes, language can be, one of the bases to reorganize India. However, primary importance must be given to administrative convenience. Now, so far it was okay, but one of its recommendation went on to create a lot of furor. This commission went on to plainly reject the splitting of Bombay province and the province of Punjab. Now what happened? Government goes on to accept the recommendations of State Reorganization Commission, and which is how 14 states and 6 union territories came to be created in India on November 1st, 1956. Now what happened? There started emerging a lot of reactions, particularly in Maharashtra, in modern day Gujarat, right? So what happened? There was a lot of chaos in the province of Bombay. So the opposition parties also joined these movements, and they were supported by students, farmers, workers, artists, businessmen, etc. So there emerged a powerful protest movement. So now let us try to understand what was the case related to Gujarat and Maharashtra. What today we have as Gujarat and Maharashtra, they were a part of Bombay province earlier. Are we getting the point? Now, there was a strong pressure, so the government decided in June 1956 to divide the state of Bombay into 2 linguistic states, which would be Maharashtra and Gujarat, and they decided Bombay city would form a centrally administered state. Right, so they were both fighting for Bombay. Gujaratis were of the opinion, we have created Bombay, right? So if you see in Bombay and adjoining region, you have more of Gujaratis, and Gujaratis are to be credited for having created what Bombay is today. No doubt about that. Same case for Madras also. Telugu people have given a lot of contribution. Now what happened? You see, the government had taken this decision, but there was so much of differences and disagreement over Bombay that, you see, things could not be laid to rest, and agitation almost continues for the next 5 years also. So finally, in May 1960, the government of India decided to bifurcate Bombay into Maharashtra and Gujarat, and Ahmedabad being the capital of Gujarat, and Bombay with the rest, lie with Maharashtra becoming its capital. So that was the case of Bombay and Gujarat. Now let us consider the case of Pepsu. Let us understand the case of Pepsu. So you see, this state of Pepsu had three language groups: the Pahari speaking group, Hindi speaking group, and Punjabi speaking group. Today we have separate state, which is Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, and Punjab, of course. Are we getting the point? Now, in this case of Pepsu, there was a strong demand to create a separate Punjabi speaking Suba. Now, Hindi speakers, said that no, there can be no creation of a Punjabi speaking state, right? And Akali Dal and Sikh communalists are going to lash out at Hindu leaders. So what happens? There was a lot of blame and counter blame between Hindi speakers, or let us say Hindu communalists and Sikh communalists. Are we getting the point? So somehow the top leadership at that point of time was of the opinion that this demand for creation of a separate Punjabi state was basically a communal demand, right, which has been actually dressed up more as a language issue. Okay, so Pandit Nehru and other top leaders felt that they are presenting it as a language issue, but this actually is more of a communal issue, and hence they never wanted to accept to such a demand. So there was a lot of furore on this, right? The second, the State Reorganization Commission also had rejected the demand for speaking Punjabi speaking state, and they said that the creation of such a state would not solve either the language or the communal problem of Punjab. So they said there is no point making it. But by the time of Indira Gandhi, there was an agreement, and you see, government decided to create Punjabi speaking state and Hindi speaking state. Punjabi speaking state, which is Punjab, and Haryana, that is Hindi speaking state, and the Pahari speaking district of Kangra and also a part of Hoshiarpur district came to be merged with Himachal Pradesh, and this Chandigarh was to be made a union territory, and which would serve as a joint capital of both Punjab and Haryana. So that way the case of Pepsu also came to be settled. Now this is what happened in the beginning. Now from the examination point of view, what you have to understand, how this linguistic reorganization of India has led to national consolidation and integration. So we will try to prove that it has definitely led to national consolidation and integration. We will illustrate it with the help of example also, and then we will see the flip side also, that it is not that everything has been good, there had been issues also. And even when we support national consolidation and integration on the basis of linguistic reorganization, we are also going to tell how, when it has not happened in other states, means other countries, it has led to problems. So when we went on to create Andhra, the Telugu speaking people, what happens is that they could have their own identity, they could have their own official language, and official works could be carried on down to the lowest level more efficiently. So this is one advantage. Then you see, when we go on to create linguistic states, it helped the state to officially patronize its language. And language, you see, is a very emotive issue. It's a very personal issue, very much issue which is close to the heart of the people. So with this, people get assured about the culture and language being preserved, right? And having such a security in the mind and heart, they have no problems in learning other language or appreciating other cultures out of their own will without any fault. So this leads to national consolidation and integration. Also, linguistic reorganization has thrown away the fear of majority language being imposed upon minorities. So in this way, we actually went on to accept diversity rather than making an attempt to level the diversity. So in this way, the federal fabric of the country has been strengthened, and by strengthening the federal fabric of the country, we have forestalled the escalation of region-centric grievances transforming into violent forms. So in this way, it has helped strengthening the unity of the country. So we have examples of many states that have been created on linguistic basis, which are the examples of development in the country, and thereby they have contributed to unity and integrity in the country. For example, we have Gujarat, we have Andhra Pradesh, and we have Maharashtra, which have illustrated themselves as good examples. So this way, there has been enabling of preserving the local customs, preserving the cultures and festivals, and over a period of time, people of one state have started to cherish such things, and also they have started respecting things of the other states. And when there is a respect from one part of the people of one state towards the other part of the country towards the other state, it only goes on to strengthen the concept of Indian nationhood. So this way, it has also contributed to promote education in vernacular language. It has ensured the participation of people, and thereby the democratic processes in the country has strengthened more so because of the use of local language. So in this way, we can say strengthening the roots of Indian democracy and adding to the cause of unity, the aspect of linguistic reorganization has only gone on to consolidate India and integrate India. But that does not mean there are everything goodies associated with this. There are certain flip side to it. For example, the sons of the soil doctrine, an attack on outsiders. For example, there have been attacks on Marathi speaking people in Tamil Nadu, Hindi speaking people in Maharashtra, merely for political gains, are some of the negative outcomes of linguistic reorganization, right? However, if we see the countries like Sri Lanka and Pakistan, they also point out that the issue of language, when unnecessarily blown out of proportion, it leads to more of problems also, more of problems also. For example, if you see in Sri Lanka, they imposed majority language over minority Tamils, and that produced a civil war kind of situation in Sri Lanka for a long time. In case of Pakistan, if you see West Pakistan and East Pakistan, West Pakistan wanted to impose their own system and language upon East Pakistan, and that is what it led to creation of Bangladesh also. While when it comes to India, fortunately, linguistic reorganization has only added to the strength of the nation and to the unity and integrity of the country. However, there are certain issues which needs to be addressed. For example, such kind of creation leads to interstate river disputes, interstate boundary disputes, and also mobilization of the people on the basis of language do leads to violence and arson here and there. So that is a flip side of linguistic reorganization. And we have examples coming from Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, having a lot of differences over river Kaveri and the usage of river Kaveri water. So overall, how do we conclude this aspect? Overall, we can say that linguistic reorganization of India into linguistically created states have gone on to strengthen the cause of unity and integrity, except a few illustrations of problems here and there. But for sure, it has prevented further breaking of India, balkanization of India, which was forecasted by many political commentators when India was gaining its independence. So that was all about it that I had to share with you today. So thank you so much. Have a great time.